Hello and welcome to the Record Rangers podcast. My name is Fraser Wilson. I'm standing in for regular podder Scott McDermott, who's away filling his boots at the Record Sport Christmas lunch. But I'm pleased to say Scott's other half, Andy Newport, is with us and ready to get stuck into another edition of All Things Rangers. How are you doing, Andy?
That was quite impressive for us. I mean, you've obviously clearly put some thought into this. Usually when that was me hosting, it's just blurt out a few words and we get right into it. But you went and wrote a wee script. I like that. That was nice.
Nah, mate. My thoughts are all on turkey and Christmas dinners and what Scottish stuff. I think he's left any for us.
The wee man, not a chance. We're lucky to get the crumbs left. So there we go.
We're coming for you, McDermott. Right, let's crack on with this then, mate. You were at Ibrox last night. Another, on the face of it, a right good result. A good victory. Moves Rangers up. They're into third. Things ticking along quite nicely for Danny Rohl. I mean, you were there. What did he make of the performance? Because I saw it on TV. Looked a bit unconvincing at times, I would say. But it's exactly what they were needing after Budapest.
Listen, it's the type of win that they certainly wouldn't have got 3-4 months ago under Russell Martin. A gritty, win at all costs sort of performance. All substance, not much style. But in terms of as a spectacle, I always tend to judge the reaction of the crowd and the couple of boys that sit behind me in the gantry at the main stand, and let's just say he might be well doing taking a wee visit to the doctors tomorrow, get his blood pressure taken because yeah, I'm sure you've heard the chap I'm referring to.
Oh yes, I know the guy.
It was boiling over more than once. I mean, it was. I thought Rangers were really poor actually on the night. I thought in terms of possession, so sloppy, so lacking in forward thrust, and without Mikey Moore, I really thought they would have struggled with just in terms of having MD shown any willingness to sort of run at Hibs to get at Hibs. What I will say in the defence of the players, I mean, it was a really young starting 11 that Danny Rohl put out. I mean, I think I worked it out of the actual outfielders. So taking Jack Butland, obviously 30 something, taking him out of the equation. It was an average age for, I think it was 22.2 years old. So that just shows you how young it was. And there weren't many leaders in that group, guys who naturally I thought, right, they're more senior figures. I mean, you're looking at maybe Connor Barron, Mohamed Diamande, Max Allen's obviously Premier League experience, but I don't think you would say any of these guys are the natural big characters in this squad. And I felt it was a performance that was crying out for somebody just to come in and steady the team down and show a bit of leadership. That's why I was so impressed with Mikey Moore. I think we'll come on to him in a wee minute, but 18 years of age, the youngest player on the team. I thought he was sensational. Okay, a lot of the stuff maybe didn't come to anything. But that's because I think a lot of the guys round about him weren't taking the responsibility that he was prepared to take. And I just thought, for a kid at 18, for him to go in and demand the ball every single time and to be the only one that was really willing to run at Hibs, I just thought it was so impressive. But in terms of the rest, listen, the fact is that Danny Rohl's, I think that's 8 games unbeaten now, 6 wins, 2 draws. It's getting them back into a title race somehow. I've just written a piece for the website saying, it seemed remarkable. It would have seemed laughable, even as I say, when Russell Martin was getting chased out of the Falkirk Stadium by enraged punters to suggest that Rangers would find themselves in a title race. But here we are, a few weeks down the line, and if they can get themselves a result at Tynecastle this Sunday coming. You've got to say they're bang in one. That would cut the gap to Hearts to 6 points. They'd have a game in hand. With the January reinforcements to come, then I think you would have to say that Rangers were in the title race. But that's a big if, as Danny Rohl pointed out himself last night when I asked him about it. They have to keep taking it one game at a time, obviously. But Sunday's shaping up to be a huge match at Tynecastle.
Really pivotal, mate. Let's get right in about that now before we go back to last night's match. You kind of look at that league table and the form kind of guide at the moment without saying Rangers are back in this title race. There's nobody else in that top flight kind of matched this sequence of results, 6 wins and 2 draws in the last 8 games. Hearts have come through their mini blip, as Some are calling it. Nobody over 4 games is calling it that. Celtic are faltering. I think this Sunday is crucial, but you've got to say, despite not really setting the head on fire, Rohl's at least got this set up as functioning, isn't he? Functioning enough to get results, whereas across the city, it looks like Wilfried Nancy is a mile off achieving that. So, given what's at stake this Sunday and with a January window just round the corner, I think this season, more than any other, could come down to who comes out of January in the best shape or who manages to strengthen most in January. Yourself, Andy, you've said yourself, it looks like a bat in the title race. What do you think needs to happen now for a Rangers perspective?
Well, they obviously have to keep this run going as long as they can, but you're absolutely right that January will be crucial, because I don't think this Rangers squad is strong enough as is to go the distance and get themselves. Yeah, they've done remarkably well, but in some of the games it's been by the skin of their teeth, and I think you obviously saw when Moore came out the squad because he was injured after that picking a wee knock in England youth international duty. You saw how lacking in creativity they were. The games against Falkirk, the games up against Dundee United at Tannadice, where they lacked a proper killer, ruthless edge at times. It does seem remarkable to me that they've got 5 clean sheets in the league over that period since Rohl's come in. And 4
goals conceded in those 8 games. That's pretty impressive.
It is impressive, but I think I don't think they can continue defending like they are and have that kind of run going on. I mean, it seemed like early on in the season that they were getting punished for every mistake they made. That's not quite been the same the case recently, but they definitely rode their luck last night. Obviously, Dujon Sterling has to clear one off the line. I was really disappointed in Hibs. I thought Hibs were, again, obviously they've beaten Ibrox twice this season. They've faced Rangers at Easter Road as well. They've lost all 3 games and they've barely laid a glove on Rangers at times. And, I just felt that last night Rangers were there for the taking. If just given the anxiety that was around the stadium, the fact they were playing so poor, they were playing so safe at times at Hibs. If they really wanted to get at Rangers, they could have really, spooked them, I think, and they didn't. So I'm wary of thinking that Rangers as is, have they got the real killer instincts to go the full season and win it? If this was the squad, no, I don't. I think we all agree that this squad's miles short of the required standard. They've done well to get themselves back in this, but there's still a lot of big hurdles to become, no bigger than obviously Tynecastle at the weekend. So listen, January will be key. What I would say is I don't think the Rangers fans should be getting themselves overly excited in the sense that I wouldn't be expecting 7, 8, 9 players to be coming in. That's just impossible to do it in a January window. I think it will be, maybe 3, 4 at the most. But what the guys who come in, they absolutely must be ready-made starters. They have to be an improvement on what's there. You can't be signing squad players. This is not what this Rangers team needs. They need a huge uplift in quality. So I think that has to be the focus. I do think there'll be some concerns. Maybe Danny Rohl will have concerns that, how achievable is that? How achievable is it to go out and get 3 or 4 guys who are, ready to come in and play right away and lift the standard of this team? Because finding players of that ilk, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cheap, certainly, either. Mm-hmm. So, I think he'll be keen to sort of play down expectations. But that might not encourage the fans. They'll demand to see guys come in who are going to give them this chance. If they've got themselves back into a position that frankly nobody really thought they'd be in, then they'll want to see the team push on. But it really does remain to be seen how they get on in January. I would have no great expectations of Rangers getting plucking 3, 4 starters out of there from somewhere, because where's the track record? The recruitment at the club has been awful. Yeah, Danny Rohl will now be the guy, signing off and all the transfers. But even though Kevin Thelwell's gone, it's still Robbie Thelwell, it's still Dan Purdy, it's still Nathan Fisher picking out the players that they need to sign. And so far they've proven that they're miles short on that front.
Aye, if they can't see now what's needed the last few months, then they never will. I would say. I mean, if we start up top, A positive is that Bojan Miovski is expected to be back for Tynecastle, I believe.
Danny Rohl said he's certainly hopeful of that. So
hopeful. Well, that sounds positive because obviously he was starting to show a wee bit of the striker that we got to know at Aberdeen. You know, that kind of clinical predator in the box, and his all round play at Aberdeen was always a lot better as well outside the box. His link up, his running in behind, his strength. Missed out last night, so it gave Yusuf Chermiti another chance. But what do you make of him? I mean, I thought he was summed up by that effort where he had a right good chance at a cracking goal and he went out for a throw in, basically. And I mean, I know what you've just said about the January window, and it is a lot more difficult in summer. But do they need to get another proven striker in?
Undoubtedly, absolutely. That for me. That would be the top of the list. I think having certainly somebody to take the burden off Miovski. It's ironic because he was the one who sort of brought in to take the burden off of Chermiti. But yeah, I mean, they absolutely need another centre forward. The whole spine of the team needs to be bolstered for me. They need a centre back. They need another, proper box to box midfielder with a creative streak to him that can score goals. And they need a striker and probably another left back as well thrown into that. So I think those would be the priority areas. But in terms of Chermiti, I mean, do you know what? I think in some ways it was his best display in a Rangers jersey, but I have to caveat that with the sense that that's not saying much. I thought in link up, it was as tidy as I've seen him. He had actually a few nice touches in there, bringing others into play. For once, he actually was looked up for the physical aspect of the game. I think that's been a big criticism. Guy, what is he? 6'4", quite quick, and a good physique about him. And too often he's just absolutely brushed off the ball. So I think a lot of people at Ibrox last night would have been encouraged to see that side of his game improve. Had not a great chance, but a good chance that he made for himself earlier on, sort of driving run into the box. Sort of decided to go on his left foot and go to the near post, and the keeper in the end it was a sort of comfortable save for the goalie, but it was a more aggressive sort of streak to him than we'd seen on the ball, certainly in a wee while. But as you say, he slashes at one, it goes out for the corner, it goes out for the throw in, sorry. It's just such an ugly finish, and then later on he has another go at the goalie when Rangers were desperate for a second goal just to kill it off and just kill the anxiety that had been sort of building around the stadium, and he doesn't take it. And I think that's the thing that's frustrating, is that at the end of the day, no matter what he does out of the box, even if he is playing well and bringing others into play, if Rangers have paid £8 million for a front man, for a striker, he has to be a goal scorer. He has to be contributing in that, and he's nowhere near contributing in the minute. But as for Miovski, I mean, you're right. It was I think it would be, nothing sums up Danny Rohl's recent sort of luck in terms of injuries that he's had, than him, Miovski, getting himself a knock over in Budapest last week. Took his 2 goals last week at Rugby Park so well. Looked like that was him getting into his stride. Follows it up with a fantastic scissor kick finish against Ferencváros. So, okay, wasn't enough to get them a result in the Europa League, but in terms of him, it was a positive sign that he was building. I think he spoke about the fact just getting that run of games, getting his fuel back, had been crucial to him, and then he goes and gets a knock. So listen, Danny Rohl will be hoping it's just this one game he's missed and he can get him back at Tynecastle, because as I say, Rangers can't afford to be going to Hearts and missing 3 and 4 and 5 chances like they did last night. At the end, they have to take everything that comes their way in Glasgow.
See the other end of the park, right? The big enigma, Manny Fernandez. It's almost, I don't know, it seems back to front of me, Andy. I think he seems more dangerous, more a threat, more potent in there in opposition's box, right? For what's he's about 6'4" as well. Scored, that's 3 goals now in 10 games, and all really good headers, to be fair to him. Yeah. And yet, I was with you down at Rugby Park last week. I just thought he looked so vulnerable at the back. I think Kelly piled the pressure on the second half, a lot of crosses into the box. He just looked a bit lackadaisical in his own box for me that night. And Kelly won far too many first contacts, as I like to call it these days, and things just flying wide of the post. And I don't know, you don't get away with that at Hearts, as you just said there. So I don't know. I think they have to play him at Tynecastle.
They've got no choice. With Nasser Giga being away, they're down to bare bones in terms of centre backs. It'll probably be Dujon Sterling, who is not a natural centre back, who'll probably start at the weekend. But you're absolutely right in terms of.
They spent serious money on him again in the summer. There is it a long-term project player? Does he have a long-term future?
Well, listen, I certainly think in the short time he's been in the team, since obviously John Souttar and Derek Cornelius picked up their injuries, I can see signs of improvement. I think there's something there to work with. But I think the trouble is that he's got the raw attributes. He's obviously got the height. He's got the physique. I'm not sure he's the quickest, but he's got the tools to be a proper centre back. And as you say, he's, in terms of attacking set pieces, he's a proper threat. The trouble is that at times he's as big a danger to Rangers in his own box as he is to opposition in theirs. And you saw last night some of his passing. I think he had 2 or 3 passes first half that were really loose that almost put the team in trouble. He gives the ball away, try to dribble out at one point in the first half as well. He has another moment early in the second half where he goes to try and cut a cross out and just takes his eye off it and it flashes over Jack Butland's bar. So, these are the moments of just concentration and focus that I think are letting him down. I think that's his biggest issue. I mean, as you say, he is. I mean, for a guy at 6'5" or what he is, I mean, if he's any more laid back, he'd be horizontal. I mean, he's a nice big lad. I've spoken to him a couple of times, humble as well. But and he admitted himself, I think he spoke about that at a press conference the other week, that that the first thing Danny Rohl sort of emphasised to him when he came in was the need just to improve that concentration levels and focus. But that's easier said than done. I think it's a bit like strikers with that eye for goal. I think it's the same with defenders. You have to be a killer in that sense. You have to be somebody who's ruthless when it comes to defending. And it's either in you or it's not. I'm not sure that's something that can be, bred into you in a sense. I think it has to be part of your makeup. And I'm just not sure that he is that, as I say, that ruthless stopper, that guy who'll literally do anything to keep the ball out the net. I sort of half joked to my match report last night. Maybe we'd be better off sticking him up front. I mean, he certainly looks, he's maybe keep him as far away from his own box as possible. But listen, I definitely think there's some tools there that the Rangers can work on and polish up some aspects of his game that can be improved. But it really is still to be seen if he's got it in him to sort of cut out the sloppy mistakes. Because see, if he can do that, then I think he has got a chance of being a proper centre back. But if he's just not got it in him, if he just doesn't have, I'm just plucking a name out here. You think about Trent Alexander-Arnold, fantastic footballer on the ball, but the biggest complaints about him is he switches off. He doesn't sense the danger and he switches off. And it's just because it's just not part of his makeup, it's not part of his mental makeup. And I just wonder if that's a wee bit the same with Manny Fernandez, if he's just not that way inclined to be seeing the danger signs, if he's just not reading them, if he just doesn't read where the threats are coming from. And I think if he can get that part of his game worked out, then he's got a bright future. But if he doesn't, then I think he'll be destined to be cast aside, because Rangers can't afford to be having guys that are caught sleeping, as he was really badly over in Ferencváros. I mean, how he doesn't see the boys sort of slipping in behind him for the header is only he can explain. But it seemed obvious to everyone else. The ball's going to the back post. You need to be ready to defend it, and unfortunately for Rangers, he wasn't.
That was it in a nutshell, I think, mate. I think you've struck the nail on the head there. But to balance things up, how good to see Dujon Sterling back in. I mean, I've got to admit, he was becoming a wee bit of the forgotten man amidst all the turmoil at Rangers at the start of this season. But it was interesting listening to Billy Dodds in the building to last night's game. I mean, he was really effusive of his praise of Sterling having worked with him at the end of last season. He's got knowledge of working with him, and he's talking about Dujon Sterling's in-game intelligence, and probably more importantly right now, his willingness to do the dirty stuff, to really work his socks off and match the physical battle. So I think his re-emergence just ahead of January could almost, one of the puns in it, one of the cliches, but be like a new signing and really crucial at this point of the season. I think you've already said he's got to start at Tynecastle now, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to, because obviously Rangers right now have got no one else other than sort of Clinton and Souttar, who, again, a bit like Dujon Sterling, would become a forgotten man. He came in for the Wilderness. He was in the bomb squad under Russell Martin, but Danny Rohl, I think, probably more through necessity than anything else, is brought him back in from the cold. So he got half an hour last night. But as you say, Sterling, I mean, just what we were talking there about Manny Fernandez when it comes to his start, ability to read the danger signs. I mean, that's what Dujon Sterling's brilliant at. I mean, the way he get back onto the line to hook that, I think it was a Warner O'Hara header off the line, was brilliant. He knew exactly, he could read that this is where the Rangers were weak. Jack Butland's caught out under the cross. O'Hara meets the header, and his first instinct is to get back onto the line and make sure that's covered. And superb clearance, and there's a couple other ones. Obviously, had a wee bit of luck. I think he would have probably given away a penalty for a handball. Quite harsh because the ball's sort of flying at him at 100 mile an hour. But thankfully for Rangers, the offside flag had gone up in the build up to the incident. But I thought he was terrific. And then the one thing about Dujon Sterling, I don't think he often gets enough credit for his ability in the ball. I mean, he's sort of known as this destroyer type. He can play in a variety of different positions. Usually to break up play, but he swung in a great cross for Fernandez. Although being said, 6'5", you can hardly miss the big man. But Sterling, I thought he was terrific. He got himself through an hour on his first start since it would have been April with that Bilbao game when he got injured. But what he provides, okay, he's maybe not the most, how should we say, technically gifted player on the ball, but what he does is provide is proper steel, and I think that's what this Rangers team has lacked badly all season, is somebody who's willing to make the crunching tackle, somebody who's willing to put their body in the line, somebody who's willing to do, as you say, do the ugly side of the game, track runners, go into areas where the wider areas, and you have to go up against somebody one-on-one. Dujon Sterling loves all that. He loves the physical aspect of the game. So I just think having somebody with that, more dogged that approach to the game is exactly what this Rangers team needs. And listen, I'm not saying he's going to play every game, but just having that option, because I think that's what at times this Rangers team has just been feeble at times. I mean, think back to that Bruges game and the 6-0 hammer. He needed somebody who was going to put a couple of challenges on. Put
hands on side.
Yeah, put in a couple of reducers on and just let the other team know that they're not going to be able to get it all the way. They're not going to have it easy. And so I think that's what, Danny Rohl, I fully expect to see him make full use of him, even when the likes of John Souttar and Derek Cornelius will come back, because as we know, he can fill a variety of different slots, and any way you can. I think right now Rangers need to get him in their team.
Yeah, keep him fit. Just before we get on to Tynecastle then, so we need to finish build up to that absolute blockbuster this weekend. But I know you touched on Mikey Moore earlier. I know you're a massive fan. It was a slow burner at first. I think he kind of got caught up in that whole mess of the Russell Martin era. Wasted a wee bit out hugging the touchline. Struggled to make an impact, but there's no doubt now that he's found his role under Danny. Pardon the pun. Hard to you forget as a kid at times, but as you said, he's showing as much bravery and kind of, I don't know, matureness on the park as anybody right now in the forward area. So let's see. Do you think it should be putting the work in now to try and extend that loan next season as much as anything?
Yeah, I mean, Scott discussed this last week, and for me, it's a no-brainer. Listen, Rangers are not going to be able to sign Mikey Moore permanently. Spurs will have a valuation of him that is in the tens of millions, and I think you're seeing why. Because as much as you're right, he did struggle early on. What I think has been so impressive about him is his ability to adapt and to cope with all the the fun bits of Glasgow that we all know about, the pressure levels, the expectation levels, the things that you don't get at other clubs. He's thriving under the thumb. Me and Scott have spoken about it a couple of times before. Just that the press conference after the Dundee game, where he scored his first goal for the club. I asked him, what's the early weeks in Glasgow done for you? Just the mental side of it, the pressure levels. What's all that done for you? I mean, are you enjoying it? Is it because there had been sort of rumours that he was looking to go back down the road. That he wasn't enjoying it, but he couldn't have been more defiant in the face of that question. He was like, no, this has done me absolute wonders. This has been a proper wake up call and a proper example on what playing men's football is about in a pressurised environment. So he's embracing the challenge at Rangers, and we spoke to him after the game in Ferencváros last week, and again we sort of asked him about the criticism that he'd had earlier on, and he gave this line, we basically said, listen, I didn't need people to tell me, shut up, I don't need you to tell me where I'm going wrong, I know myself. And I think that is so refreshing to hear, that a young player, he's not waiting for the praise and adulation or the criticism. He judges himself by his own standards, and he knows when he's living up to them, and he knows when he's not, and when he isn't, he redoubles his effort and goes out to try and to meet the levels that he believes he should be playing at. So for me, that's exactly the kind of attitude that Rangers need in players. Yeah, okay, if they were to get him back, the argument would be from the critics, well, all you're doing is developing another club's player, and that's right. But right now, Rangers need people who can contribute week in, week out, and for me, that's exactly what Mikey Moore is doing. I mean, I thought, as I said earlier, the fact that at times when all Rangers really doing was passing the ball across the back into midfield and back into the centre backs, and they were going nowhere. It took Mikey Moore to get in the ball for them to drive forward and get at Hibs. Without him, I think Hibs would have had it entirely their own way in the first half. So for me, you're right, maturity, character, even if you want to say a wee bit of homos, he's got it all. And I think if Rangers could persuade Spurs to, maybe let him come up for a second year on loan here, I think it would do the player good, because I think I get another year here under Danny Rohl, maybe some better players round about him. Maybe there's an increased prospect of competing for honours, and I think Rangers would get the benefit of a player who I believe, having seen him now over the course of 6 months, really is destined for the top. I mean, I think he raised a lot of eyebrows. It was one of his first press conferences up here. He said he wants to be one of the best players in the world. Now that's a huge declaration. But I think, listen, it's early days, got a long way to go, but I think you can see he's got the talent that would certainly give him a decent chance at it. He just needs to now continue in the path he's going. I think he's destined for the very, very top.
A wee clinical edge and all, Andy, isn't there? I go back to that Rugby Park game again, but he came on and killed that game with a brilliant finish from outside the box, and then just as good a finish for the angle inside the box, albeit it got chopped off. But
very harshly. Very harshly. I mean,
Rangers are needing clinicians in and about the goal right now, and I think he's another that they can count on.
Absolutely.
Right, let's get to it. Super Sunday, Tynecastle. I've seen a lot of Hearts recently this season. I saw them again Saturday night in absolutely horrendous conditions at Falkirk. Derek McInnes said it himself. A lot of teams, a lot of people would have expected them to slip up there. It was exactly that type of night, but they just produced yet another solid performance right from back to front. Did the job, scored early, finished the game off pretty early, got out of there with 3 points. Nothing fancy. This is a Hearts team that's got Derek McInnes written all over it. It's hard to find a weak spot with them. Good goalkeeper, rock solid at the back, combative, creative in the middle, and maybe more than he's ever had at any of his previous clubs, some real quality up front. As we all know about Lawrence Shankland, but the magic that can come from the likes of Kizaridis and Braga, I think people are now starting to understand and see on a weekly basis. So this is as big a test as you get in Scottish football right now. To start with, do you expect Rangers to bring in the big hitters again? The rest of the likes of Nico Rask and James Tavernier last night, do you expect these guys to come back into the starting 11?
I think they absolutely have to, because as I was saying last night, the squad was obviously very young, 22 effectively his average age. I thought there was times where physically they were out-muscled at times by Hibs. Times Connor Barnes getting brushed off the ball. You're looking at young Finlay Curtis getting brushed off the ball. Even Max Arns, again, guy who's played 100-odd Premier League games, there's times he was finding it difficult in sort of individual head-to-heads. So I think that's why you need guys. They need men. Rangers are going to need big men to stand up to the challenge at Tynecastle. Because one thing, listen, it's a sort of, as you say, one of the cliches to say about a Hearts team, or they're physical and they're tough, but listen, this is a Hearts team that are they can play so many different ways. If you want to go into a street fight with them, they will battle you. If you want to play football, then they'll take you on head-to-head that way as well. So I think there's no doubt. Like Raskin, obviously, he missed out last night. He had a slight knock. He hadn't trained with the 3 days leading up to the game. So I think otherwise he would have been fit. But listen, he came on for the last 10 minutes. So listen, if it was a serious issue, he wouldn't have been anywhere near a squad list last night. So the fact that he got to 10 minutes, I would fully expect to see him starting at Tynecastle. The same way with Tavernier, I think going through there at the best of times. For our Rangers team, it is a tough environment, but with Hearts absolutely flying, the crowd expected through there. You need your experienced campaigners. I expect Gisama to come back in. I thought Finlay Curtis, as much as a bright prospect, I don't think he did too much last night to suggest that he would keep his place. So I think Gisama will be back in. And obviously, we said if Majowski's fit, I think he leads the line. But Rangers are going to need to take every opportunity that comes away. They're going to have to be absolutely up for the battle. If there's any kind of repeat of the hesitancy that we've seen from at times, if they're kind of meek in the challenge, if they're meek with their passing, Hearts will pounce on that. So this will be a proper examination of Danny Rohl's Rangers. Listen, we've seen them in Europe. They've been a mile shot, and I don't think you can put too much blame in Danny Rohl for that because of the mess he's been left. He's had to pick up. I think he's done very well.
Yeah.
To get the team into the position that they are. Injuries obviously have hampered them a bit, especially in defence. But if he can get any kind of result, even a draw, I mean, as much as it wouldn't be the kind of thing that said, right, you're back in a title race. But I think what it does show is that it'd be the first sort of big game where you could say that they would have certainly held their own. I mean, okay, there was an Old Firm game earlier on in the season, a 0-0 draw under Russell Martin, but it was an Old Firm game and sort of name only, wasn't it? I mean, it was like it had none of the sort of blood or thunder or passion that you would have expected from
nothing of it at all, Andy. Did it even happen? I can't remember this thing.
Yeah, the most eventless Old Firm derby of all time. So
this won't be in Sunday, that's for sure.
No, I think, and obviously, having beat Rangers once, having beat Celtic twice, here's a huge opportunity for Hearts to go and really stamp their authority over this title race and go, once again, as you said, that November run with the sort of frittered away their big 8-point lead that they built up. This would be another real declaration of what they intend to do over the next 6 months. But if Rangers can stand up to that, then I think you've got every right. I think Danny Rohl will have every right to say, right, we're banging the title race right now.
You're right. It's standing up to it. That's the right phrase, because this will be the ultimate test of mentality. I kind of agree a point. If they can go away to Tynecastle, we all know what Tynecastle brings, especially with Hearts in this form. They can go away and match the league leaders at Tynecastle. I think that's not a bad outcome. But if they can go and win that game, what a statement that would be, coming up to basically the midpoint of the season. And then we absolutely would have a title race on, maybe a 3-way title race. So, look, I just think this is an absolute pivotal moment of the season for Rangers. Can he lose the game? They would just finish with a prediction. Andy, will I put you on the spot?
I think I'll go one each. Sit in the fence, get some splinters on my backside. I think I'll go one each. I don't think this Rangers team, as much as they've had 5 clean sheets, I can't see them going to Tynecastle and not concede. Neither can I really see them going and getting a flurry of goals through there. I think Hearts are too well drilled, so I'll go 1-1. What about yourself?
They've got a right good record at Tynecastle, haven't they, Rangers?
Yeah. But this is a different Hearts team as well. No, I mean, this is a
Hearts, different Rangers. You're right.
Yeah.
I think the best they can hope for is a draw. I'm going to go 2-2 actually. All right, a 2-2 thriller. In the build up to Christmas. There you go.
A Desmond.
There we go. An eggnog for Christmas. There you go. Desmond, aye. There you go. I don't think anyone would be too disappointed with that. Right, folks, I think that wraps us up, unless you've got anything else to say, Andrew.
No, I think that'll do us.
I'll do this time to get down to that Christmas party. Look, thanks for joining us on the Record Rangers podcast. Don't forget you can catch us on all the usual outlets, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or you can watch us on YouTube if you prefer, and you can keep up with all the latest breaking sports news at dailyrecord.co.uk. Thanks for joining us.